Hi guys, so we've started going through the different pronouns and we've gone through personal pronouns and reflexive pronouns as well as relative pronouns. We're now going to continue with demonstrative pronouns. Demonstrative pronouns distinguish a particular noun from similar things, and they can be separated into two categories, near and far. The demonstrative pronouns that show things that are near are this, that shows singular, and these, that show plural. Demonstrative pronouns that show things that are far away are that, which shows singular, and those, that show plural. So, for example, this girl and these girls, or that girl and those girls. Those are demonstrative pronouns. This and these in something that's near, and that and those in something that's far. Now we're going to go through possessive pronouns, and they express the ownership of something. The possessive pronouns are mine, yours, his, hers, or its, as well as ours, yours, and theirs. So instead of saying, for example, this is my teddy bear, you can say, this is mine. So if you say, for example, this is my dessert and this is yours. Instead of that simplifies it. Instead of saying this is my dessert and this is your dessert, you say this is my dessert and this is yours. Possessive pronouns are different from the genitive, which also shows ownership, but possessive pronouns replace the noun, and genitive form is when you show that the noun is the owner of something. To express the genitive, you put an apostrophe as well as an s if the noun is in singular, and an apostrophe after the plural s if the noun is in the plural, as in girls, the girl's dog, apostrophe and s, and if there are several girls, you just put an apostrophe after the s. Now we're going to go through the interrogative pronouns. And interrogative pronouns introduce questions, and since they're pronouns, they reflect back to a noun, for example, the name of a person or a thing. There are several interrogative pronouns, for example, who, what, which, whom, and whose. Sorry, I misspelled whom, so that's the correct spelling of whom, without the E at the end, obviously. So, who replaces the subject when the subject is a person. When the subject is a person. What and which both replace the subject when the subject is a thing. And whom or who replaces something when the object So that replaces the object when that's a person. And whom is used in formal English. Who is used more and more, but if you really want to show that it's the object that's being replaced, you should probably use whom. And finally, whose, and that inquires after possessive pronouns, such as mine or yours or his. So, inquires after possessive pronouns. And then there are words that are interrogative, like why and when, that show that they are question words. So they show that something's a question and not a statement. But why and when are not pronouns. So when we're talking about interrogative pronouns, you're only talking about who, what, which, whom or who, and whose. And that were all the different pronouns that we were going to go through. And next we're going to go into conjunctions. Conjunctions are words that bind together words or sentences, and they can be coordinating. And that's when they bind together the same type of words or sentences. So examples of coordinating conjunctions are and then but. And then there are subordinating conjunctions. Subordinating conjunctions connect a subordinate clause to a main clause, and those are words like when, because, and since. And it's really important to remember to never begin a sentence with a coordinating conjunction. And now we're going to look at clauses. And clauses can be divided into principal or main, and subordinate and dependent. And a principal or main clause is a group of words that can stand on its own, and they always include a verb and a subject. An example of a principal clause is they went on a trip. So they went on a trip is a principal clause because it can stand on its own. A subordinate or dependent clause, even if it contains both a verb and a subject, is a clause that can't stand on its own. And they often begin with a relative pronoun like which or who or that, or a coordinating or subordinate conjunction. And a coordinating conjunction was and but, and a subordinate conjunction was when or because or since. And in the example I just wrote, they went on a trip and then they came home. The principal or main clause is they went on a trip and then they came home. That's a subordinate or dependent clause because it can't stand on its own. You can't just ignore they went on a trip and only say and then they came home, because that wouldn't make sense. Subordinate clauses can also stand before the principal clause, and then the most important thing is to identify what's the main thing, what's the main event. And knowing which is the main event helps you identify the principal clause. And now we're going to talk about negations, and we've already talked about the negations a bit in the first lesson we had. And negations are something that negate the meaning of a sentence. And to negate the meaning of a sentence, you can use the words not, or the contracted form nt at the end of a verb, or no, or never, or you can use the prefix like in unhappy. Sorry. In this word negates it. So you're not happy, you're unhappy. And one very important thing to remember about negations is to never ever use double or triple or quadruple negations, because that is grammatically incorrect. And finally, we're going to go through prepositions. Prepositions show the relationship between a noun or a pronoun and the other words in the sentence. In the sentence, the man on the bus, the word on is a preposition, and it shows that the man is on the bus. So it shows the relationship between the man and the bus. Prepositions describe, for example, direction, source, place and time. So prepositions that have to do with direction are, for example, to or toward. And prepositions that have to do with source are from and out of. And prepositions that have to do with place are at, by and on. And that's the one used in the sentence, the man on the bus. That's a preposition indicating the place. And prepositions that have to do with time are at, before, by, and on. So you see that some prepositions, the same word can be used for several things. So at and on, for example, they can be used both for time and place. So that's it, guys. We've gone through different parts of a sentence, different parts of a word. We've gone through the different parts of speech, and in the week after the break, we'll go through these things again, but in the form of examples, and we'll do exercises using them. Have a great break, everyone, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.